Hi all, today we're going to show you how to create these super cool pseudo batik fabric textiles. I use tea towels and black walnut here, but the point is that we're going to learn how to use this really cool Indonesian method of resist dyeing, and we're going to use plants to dye our fabric, which is really fun. Yeah, it's so fun. So stay tuned and figure out more about batik, the materials that we'll need for this, and the methods behind it.
For this activity, we're going to need just a handful of really simple to obtain items. The first of which is our fabric. Ideally, you'll have cotton. It is going to be a really great fabric to use. These are just old tea towels, old flour sack tea towels that I'm going to be using as gift wrapping this holiday season or for birthdays, things like that. And I'm going to be using them as sustainable gift wrapping, which is a technique called furoshiki, which you can see a little video tutorial that I do of sustainable gift wrap in another video. Next, you are going to need glue. And Elmer's School Glue is going to be really great for this. You can also get the blue gel glue. It comes in a similar bottle, but it's bluish color. That is going to be what we create our patterns with on our fabric, and the dye won't be able to get through the glue. And then when we wash the fabric out, we can wash the glue out, and it leaves this really beautiful pattern. And we'll talk a little bit more about batik, that technique of dyeing and utilizing resistance in dye, in a little bit as well. We will need some sort of buffer, and by buffer I mean either if you have a flat thing like a tea towel here, then you could just do it on a table or on a big sheet of paper. Or if you're doing a t-shirt and you want to have separation between the layers of fabric, you're going to want like a piece of cardboard to put in between the front and the back of the shirt. That way your glue doesn't go through your fabric and glue the pieces together or create designs on the side that you don't ultimately want. Then you're going to need whatever you're going to be dyeing with. If you want, you can use tie-dye and the more synthetic dyes. That's absolutely fine. But I'm going to be using black walnuts. And these are from the black walnut tree, Juglans nigra. I can harvest these right outside. So you will want 5 walnuts. 5 walnuts, it's kind of a nice handful of walnuts per little bit of fabric. So if you have one t-shirt, 5 walnuts is going to be plenty. If you have one tea towel, 5 walnuts is plenty. And then add more walnuts as you add more fabric. And if you're using walnut, you're also going to want something called ferrous sulfate. This is really easy. I went to Giant and found it in the vitamins and supplements section. It's iron. And iron is something we add to the dye pot to darken or embolden a color. We can also use it to bind a plant dye to the fabric. Now, black walnut is really, really strong dye to begin with, so I don't need it to bind, but I do like to darken the color. And you can use all sorts of different metals, like this is iron. You can use copper or alum, which is in the baking section. This is ultimately going to get added to the dye pot when we are making our dyed fabric. But otherwise, that's it. Then you just need your imagination. So let's talk about what batik, that technique, is, and kind of the culture and the history behind it. Batik is a practice of creating beautiful designs on textiles using some sort of wax or resin resistance. And now, in modern days, we're using our glue, not wax, not resin. You could if you wanted to. This is just the easier and cheaper form of doing that. but you're going to get a very similar design result. Now, this originated in Eastern Asia. We have evidence of seeing it in Japan and in China. However, it really is the peak, and it's really known for existing in Indonesia on the island of Java. And this dates back to thousands of years ago that this was practiced. So it's a really cool, very unique Asian tradition of dyeing and designing your fabrics. Today you can see it in t-shirts, in tablecloths. It's not just wearable art, but you can get, like I said, the tablecloths or curtains or mats. So you can see it in a lot of really unique places wherever textiles are used. So now let's get started step by step. How do we create our own little pseudo batik fabric? And I am going to use my glue bottle to draw patterns on my fabric. For this particular towel, I want to create like a giraffe print. So I can start and create glue lines in the design of giraffe print. And keep in mind that wherever you have the glue is going to be where the dye cannot seep through. So I'm going to have brown with a line of white cutting through it. And then you just keep going with your design, drawing with your glue. Now here you can kind of see the white. You can see that raised texture, but it may be difficult to see depending on the color of your fabric. And this is where that bluish colored, that gel glue can come in real handy. But continue to draw as much as you want on your fabric. And when you're done drawing, you're just going to let it dry. Once your fabric is dried, you are going to want to break open your walnuts and put them in the pot that you will be creating your dye with. So this is going to be a pot that you only use for plant-based dyes and not for cooking. So crack them open. You see I have some fabric down on the floor here. I have a mallet because they can be hard. And this fabric, I don't care about getting dirty because remember, this is a dye, so it's okay. Whoa! See, we already made a mess. That is our smashed walnut. We'll add water and our iron tablet, and we will get to heating our dye. Once the dye is ready, we can get rid of the walnuts or keep them in. I like to keep them in because wherever the plant matter touches the fabric, it's going to make it nice and dark, and I kind of like that mottled look. We can give it a good stir, and then we can add our fabric. Then when you are done and it's the color that you like, you can take it out. Ooh, look at that resist. That's so cool. And you're going to rinse it with cold or cool water until the water runs clear. So none of that brown water, we want clear water. And once it's rinsed out fully, you can let it air dry.